on that note, welcome to the Center of Love. I'm so glad each and every one of you are here today. And all of you online, thank you for showing up and for being here and bringing your presence, like we all have presents to give and presents to be. And that's part of what we come here to do and experience and express ourselves. This is a wonderful community I'm so grateful for, that we get to come here and just be and listen and learn and grow with each other and support each other in being the best of who we are. And I want to bring our attention to one of the things that is in our I'm not even sure what to call it. Our commitments. One of them is our agreements. I'm going to draw our attention to one of the things that we have agreed to is when we know ourselves, we become wise. And when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. And when we love ourselves, we love the world. Now, on that note, I want to draw our attention to the fact that there's two layers of the center of love as I see it. One of them is you. You're the center of love. Each and every one of us individually is the center of love. Just take a deep breath and just take that in. Yeah, you're the center of love. And the second layer is when we come together, we are the center of love. As a community, as us coming together is what we have created here as the center of love. So the distinction I'm going to bring to that is that one of these aspects you have total control over. Can you guess which one? Right, you, as who you are, how you express yourself, what you believe, what you make things mean, how you are, that's what you have control over. And the other aspect is the collective. While we have a general idea that we agree on certain ideas or terms or whatever, you just never know what's going to happen because we're all individual. We all bring our flavor, our different perspective, our history, our learning. So those are the two distinctions. One area we have total control, and the other we just have to let go. We can try and control it. How's that working for you?
Yeah, that's so good.
Right? But that's important to realize or realize. And I believe that that's what's meant by the serenity prayer, that that's what it's meant to teach us. And for our sharing, God, universe, source, all that is, fill in the blank, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The reason I bring that up for you today is because it is related to the talk about to be given by my very good friend, Oliver Belisle. Oliver is one of the founding members of this brainchild called the Center of Love. And I've known him for about a year now, and he's become one of my great friends. He is kind, and he's a loving man, and he's very knowledgeable about all kinds of things. And if I play him up too much, he'll say, he'll get uncomfortable because he's so humble. Right? Look, as he changes a nice shade of plaid. But he's available to listen, and he really is present and caring. There's just something natural about this man, and I want him to take these words in and understand that this is a reflection of him coming back to him from me. He's a light in this world. He's a wonderful dad. And he's a light worker. And he's become one of my best friends. So without further ado, I'd like to bring to the front here my good friend, Ollie.
Yay, Ollie!
I should have given you a bio. Good synchronicities there, Dre. Well done, sir. Thank you very much for the introduction. Okay. So our first gathering of the Center of Love was on May 15th.
Wow.
It was a while ago. Time flies when you're having fun, right? On that day, I had the honor and privilege of speaking with you, and I shared with you my version of the events that led to the birth of this community. And as I said, there are many versions of this story. This was just my angle. But I talked to you about asking and receiving explicit instructions to start building a church. And when I objected to these instructions and said, can't possibly do this by myself, I mean, what are you thinking? The great teacher responded. She said, who said anything about doing it by yourself, stupid? I said, start building, find the others, the rest will take care of itself. So far, I got to tell you, the great teacher was telling the truth. Looking at all of you here in person and online, looking at the long list of people who are interested in this community, I can tell that I wasn't misled. In a few short months, we've cemented into a true spiritual community, and I dare say we're living up to our commitments and our agreements and our philosophy. And part of this philosophy is the idea that each member here is both a teacher and a student, which is why we all take turns coming up here to the pulpit to share messages of love, inspiration, wisdom, and support. The overarching message that I've been instructed to deliver through this community is simple and it's straightforward. You've already heard it many times here from the mouths of different speakers and myself included. There are many different ways to word this message, but the simplest formula I have discovered is as follows. You are it. You are it. Are you looking for a savior? Look in the mirror. Are you looking for salvation? Look within yourself. Or like that apparent Rumi quote I shared with you last time, don't know if it actually came from Rumi or not, but he said, everything you want, you already are. Remember, not you already have it. You are it. That's a big shift right there. So the love that we seek from our parents, our children, from the community is right here, right now. Always accessible, always available. Like Lao Tzu said, it's like a bellows, empty yet inexhaustible. The more you draw from it, the more it produces. Wow. Empty and inexhaustible. So a key question which has already come up in our community many, many times by different speakers is what prevents us from experiencing ourselves as we truly are, as these beings of infinite light and love and potential? Seems that the spiritual path consists, in part at least, of identifying and dismantling the obstacles that get in the way of us experiencing our true nature. Now, in my years of spiritual exploration, philosophy, practicing, psychology, all these different things that I've done, I feel like I've honed in on the source of many, if not all, of the obstacles, at least in myself. And in my experience, all of these obstacles can be traced back to the mind and its many functions and operations. The mind has many ways to obscure the perfection and beauty of this moment. It compares this moment to past moments, imagines alternative present moments that would be better, or speculates about future moments. Or maybe it distracts you from this moment by bringing up concerns and worries, like, oh God, what time is it? I have to be somewhere at noon. What will people think if I just get up and leave in the middle of this gathering, right? All of these things help to distract us from the present moment, and they all come from that good old-fashioned chatterbox that we have in the head there. Or at least that seems to be the way it is for me. So maybe it's the same for you. The mind, as the old cliche goes, is either a faithful servant or a cruel, cruel master. And if you leave it to its own devices, guess which one it becomes. Okay. So today I would like to share something. I would like to draw your attention actually to a common fundamental piece of mental programming that creates all types of stress in our lives: anxiety, frustration, helplessness. It's a kind of filter that we look at the world through. And when we look at the world through this filter, it draws our attention away from our power and from love and presence, and it gives us the illusion of being completely and utterly helpless. More importantly, I'd like to share a way to flip this programming around and completely upend the world as we see it. And as the title of this talk implies, the mantra behind all of this is renounce and rejoice. Renounce what? Rejoice what? Right? Renounce what you can't change and rejoice in what is truly yours, the things that are actually within your power. Dre already shared the Serenity Prayer, that beautiful and familiar passage, which encapsulates the key elements at play here today. But now let's read the original Serenity Prayer from, let's say, 2,000 years or so earlier, as expressed by the Stoic philosopher and freed slave Epictetus. Now, Epictetus, in case you're wondering, the name means acquired. His name literally means acquired because he was born into slavery. So this person has a lot of key insights into freedom, having been born without it. And he says that happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. It is only after we have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner peace and outer effectiveness become possible. Notice the difference, slight though it may be, between Epictetus and the more modern Serenity Prayer. In the Serenity Prayer, we are praying for inner peace so that we can accept things that we can't change. But Epictetus tells us it's actually the other way around. When we accept the things that are beyond our control, then we feel inner peace. So it's not a prerequisite, it's a symptom of accepting things that are beyond our control. He goes on to say, trying to control or change what we can't only results in torment. Agree? Okay, good. We're on the right page. If you think you have free reign over things that are naturally beyond your control, your pursuits will be thwarted. You will fail. And you will become a frustrated, anxious, fault-finding person. So frustration, anxiety, being judgmental, these qualities, according to Epictetus at least, are symptoms of trying to control the things that are beyond our control, trying to change things we can't change, trying to affect things that are beyond our influence. So let's take this message from Epictetus as a theory. I'm not saying it's true. I'm not saying it's absolute. Let's just use it as a theory and test it out. If we want to test this out, we first need to figure out what is fully mine to change, control or shape to my liking, what is subject to my influence, which is basically like partial control, and what is completely and beyond my control and influence, right? We have to kind of divide the world into these categories as we go through it. We have to train ourselves to filter situations through this question, especially situations that cause stress, anxiety, cause us to become judgmental, fault-finding people. So when you do this, what you may come to realize is that it's rarely cut and dry. It's rarely black and white. It's rare that there's a situation where you have complete control. It's rare that there's a situation where you have absolutely no control. Most situations, in my experience, fall into this middle ground where you have some influence over things. You have some agency, but ultimately, it's not entirely yours to control. And so what happens then when you enter these situations is you have to find the part of the situation that is yours, the part of the situation that you can control, and you have to focus all of your attention on it, and you have to attach all of your expectations to that and that alone. Any piece of it that is outside of your control, you have to train yourself to say, this means nothing to me. How easy does that sound? If you can't control it, train yourself to say, this means nothing to me. Easier said than done, right?
Yeah.
That's what Candace told me this morning anyways, as I was reading this to her. Exactly. That's why I talk about training, right? We have to train ourselves to view the world this way. We have to train ourselves to care less and less about the stuff we don't control and more about what we do control. So there's actually a pretty radical implication to this whole philosophy, this whole approach, because one thing that is largely outside of our control is the result of what we do, the outcome of our actions, right? We can make plans, we can coordinate, we can train ourselves and take action, but there is no guarantee at any point that the desired outcome will come to fruition. How often do we stress and agonize over how things will play out? And how often are we disappointed by the outcome or the result of our efforts after the fact? We have to remember that outcomes are only partially within our control. We can influence them, but that doesn't mean that they will match our expectations or desires at any point. No matter how well we play our part, no matter how effectively we perform, there's always a chance that things will play out differently than we wished. And so this brings us to the tail end here of our talk, in which I will quote from the Bhagavad Gita, this wonderful Indian scripture from many thousands of years ago. And in it, Krishna says that those who are motivated only by the desire for the fruits of their actions are miserable because they're constantly anxious about the results of what they do, all right? Now notice he doesn't say anybody who's motivated by the desire. He says only, when that's your only motive, when everything that you're doing is about the result and the outcome, that's when he says that you will find yourself anxious about the results of what you do. Abandon all attachment to the result of action and attain supreme peace. That's what Krishna tells us. That's what Epictetus tells us. Accept the things you can't change and you will attain serenity. And here's the kicker. There's a bit of magic to it, because as you stop fixating on all the stuff that's outside of your control and you consolidate your attention and your focus on the things you can control, you become more effective in the world. And so by letting go of the things you can control, you actually have more control. By focusing on the things you can control, you have more influence over them because you're at peace. You're thinking clearly. You have more options. When you get into a challenging situation, you see that there are many ways that you can respond. You're not emotionally charged. And so it's paradoxical, but by trying to control things, we lose control. By letting go, we gain more control. At least that's the experience that I've had. And so the more you let go trying to control things, the more control you have over them. And I should note as well that fully accepting what is means being at peace with it. When you're at peace with something, you can think clearly, you have more options in how you interpret, act, and react to the world. And this freedom to choose is exactly what Lori spoke about at the end of our last gathering, when she quoted Viktor Frankl. The freedom to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. And maybe, just maybe, that's really the only choice we ever have. I don't know. And that's a question that I would like to pose to this group and that I would like to hear everybody's thoughts about. But I'll give you one example as we part. I mentioned at the beginning receiving instructions to create a church, to start building a church. And my first response was, I can't do it. I was thinking about the outcome. I was thinking, that's way too big of a job. Who's going to come to this thing? What's going to happen? Everything was about the things I couldn't control. The great teacher told me, start doing the work. Forget about everything else. It's going to take care of itself. So far, it seems to work pretty well. But as I said, looking forward to hearing everybody else's experiences and thoughts with this question of control, influence, acceptance, and so on. I want to know what everyone else thinks. So thank you for listening. And now we shall meditate on this interesting message.
Thank you all for being here today. What a great opportunity for us to connect, to share, to be part of this community, to hear wisdom, to share wisdom, to allow that to absorb into us the best of the best, and to take this as a great opportunity to see us through the next few weeks until we meet again, at which point you are stuck with me speaking to you, all of you. Just a couple, oh, don't be clapping yet. It's a couple of days before Halloween, so you're in for a treat, I'm sure. Now that I set myself up, I'll go. But anyway, for today, enjoy your wonderful, beautiful, sunny day. And thank you for being here. Remember that you can always contribute. If you'd like to speak and share anything, some wisdom with all of us, we'd love to hear from you. Please talk to Oliver for getting onto our roster. I think our roster is filled for this year so far.
Yeah, until the new year.
Yeah, until the new year.
Year's
So you know you've got time. And remember that if you decide to say, yes, I'm gonna do it, you got lots of time to build up to it, and you'll be ready by the time your time comes. We have the donation basket. So there's all kinds of ways you can contribute, ideas, thoughts, and also financially. We don't have a huge financial outlay, but every dollar counts. And so please, you can either do it. There's an email address. There's little, if you want to do it by e-transfer. So there's an email address. They're in the basket. So any contribution is appreciated. Helps us grow, helps us thrive. And with that, I wish you a wonderful and beautiful day. Thank you for being here.
May the week ahead be restoring to your soul. May the universe take care of all your needs and touch your life with contentment. May others' love touch you at the deepest part of yourself. And may the people in your life be touched by your love. Stay open and willing to receive all good. That's my invocation for all of us.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.